I guess, something that I've seen a lot in, appointments and announcements recently is the increasing the amount of female representation in HSBC. It's, it seems to be like not just sort of talking about it, but actually doing something about it. We actually had the pleasure of talking to the Deputy Mayor of London this week, and he was, saying how organisations within London are taking real steps to sort of make, not just from a gender perspective, but diversity of all types. So how are you guys going about that? Because it seems like, real change is happening.
Yeah, it is. Across the bank. So John, our new chief executive, one of the first things he did was committed himself to 30% and then to keep on pushing. And that's not enough. And I get reminded about that every day. My much more successful and clever wife points it out. My two daughters who point out that it's a man's world and it's all wrong and it needs fixed, remind me every day. And the same is true at work. I'm lucky in operations and technology, we're actually quite balanced, but not at the senior ranks. So we have a cast iron rule that we try and appoint in our top 3 ranks 50% women into every role, because if we just wait for the natural flow through to come through, it'll take too long. It's not good enough. So it's very, very serious job to be done. It's easier for me in operations because, as it happens, that's a natural flow through. And apparently it's much harder in technology, but I won't have it. And, the whole technology team, many of whom are women as well, will point out that there are less engineers, mathematicians, physics graduates, whatever it is. And I'm like, I don't care. We only need 20,000 of them, and there are many millions in the world. Sure. So we've got to go after them. So we are deadly, deadly, deadly serious about it. We've got really focused on the women's issue because we're a big, complicated organisation, and if you start to water it down with this, that and the other thing, then very quickly you don't really do anything, and everybody sort of feels warm and fuzzy as an individual because they're doing something, but you're not really moving it forward. Personally, I spent my spare time and personal time on LGBTQ issues because I did in my previous job, and I'm still very passionate about that. And so what I've said to all of my team at every level, which is, of course, it's fine to worry about BME, LGBTQ, you name it. All those things are valid, differently abled. But we collectively, as a business, as a team, we're going to make big progress on the women's issue. Because if we don't all get focused on one big goal, we're not going to move it forward. It doesn't mean everything else doesn't matter. And I do get... Actually, the folks are really good. I get emails and calls and why not this and why not that? And it's a valid question, and I give them the same explanation I give to you, which is as soon as I say and, I know the impact will be diluted and diluted and diluted. Yeah. And we've just got to crack it. It's 50% of the world's population, and it's not good enough. We need to make progress.
I completely agree. It's such a difficult thing because I don't think there's a single answer to how that change comes about, and it's not just I don't believe it's a switch that can be flicked to make changes. It's people need role models. It's a generational thing really, because I think it's educational. It's having younger people having role models within engineering, within technology, to really aspire to be at that level with those roles. We spoke recently to Alison Rose at RBS, who said the exact same thing. She didn't think it was one thing. It's not some conspiracy that in her mind.
And the only thing that worries me about that is, in some ways, that can almost feel like a set of excuses. And I know you weren't making them, but it's just not good enough. You have to start, and getting people in the head is easy, right? I don't meet anybody who logically has a problem with this. But you've got to get them in the heart and the gut to really get things to happen. Because otherwise it's just too easy to rationally agree and then not do anything about it. And I think there are things that we can do and are doing. So one of the things that drives me nuts is things like performance evaluation and promotion. So performance evaluation, the sort of formats are typically written in what I would describe as broadly male language. So it's male attributes are the things that are most important, and the things in sort of grey italics at the bottom of every box are the so-called female ones. But some of those softer things I think are super important. Like in a world where we at least are trying to get tens of thousands of people working in a distributed agile mode, I need people who are great team players, great listeners, great coaches, all those things. And some of those things aren't high enough up the priority list in performance evaluation. So we're trying to get some of that changed. So that brings those things to the fore. And then on promotions, what I find hilarious is, and I hate caricatures, but this one I think is broadly valid. Put a 10-point criteria on the table, give it to a guy and give it to a woman. The guy will broadly say, yep, got it. Tick all 10, ready for the job. The woman will look at it and go, yeah, well, 1 through 5, I have a solid track record. I can really show evidence in that. 2 of those, they're on my development plan. I'm working on them. I'm not quite. And those 3, well, I'm not too sure. And at one level can talk themselves out of the job. But for me, we need to flip it from the interviewer and have the interviewers, and we're doing this with the men and the women, which is to the people who come in and say, yeah, I've got all 10, ask them really tough questions about whether they really do. Because normally the man who says I've got all 10 has 4 plus 2 and a bit of 2 more. And the woman who self-critically has said I've got 5 plus 2 and I'm not sure about 3 actually has normally underscored herself. And actually you find out the opposite is true, which is the woman is actually better qualified, has greater self-awareness, is more ready for the job.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's the tiny nuances in those processes that can make the collective difference, isn't it, over that time period? And if that's been the case for such a long time, then unpicking a lot of that is really, really hard. But it's great to see, real sort of change actually happening in such a big organization. Because like you say, you guys are global, like properly global. So it'll make such a massive difference to so many different countries to bring about that equality.
That's the other thing that drives me nuts. I mean, some of the countries we operate in, we are better than where you wouldn't expect. We're better than the places you would expect us better. So we have a significant stake in a bank in Saudi Arabia, not a famously diverse place. I am delighted to say that my leadership team is 60-40. Now, it's still only 60-40, men to women, but I'll take 60-40 in Saudi Arabia and push it. I wish I could say all my leadership teams in all my countries that are, more liberal, advanced, whatever label you were 60-40, because if it was 60-40 everywhere, I'd be in a better place than I am now. For sure. Across the world. So
yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Throughout this this whole interview, the technology plays such a kind of a low light to real sort of cultural transformation, whether it be through diversity or openness to different ways of working. That feels like the the major barrier for really big organizations. I guess it's for not just in banking, but every big organization. Keeping that culture to move forwards and deal with new challenges. That's the key, right?
It is. So our new chief executive, John, talks about the healthiest human system in the financial industry, and he's deadly serious about it. It'll take him, as he says, every day that he's CEO, whether that's 6 years or 8 years or 10 years or until he retires. And I think that's true. And funny enough, the thing that we're putting as much effort into anything else across the whole business globally is our what we call ways of working. And it's not some short manifesto that makes us more googly or something. We're really having a good hard think of, who's on what, how do we do things, how do we have conversations, how do we have tough conversations that don't get personal, how do we make some of these diverse things easier to do. It's hard work. None of it's brain surgery. It's actually, the answers as we work through them are nearly always simple. But doing it is hard. Doing it every day, doing it consistently, not letting it slip. That's the hard bit. And I think every and this is not true about old organizations like us versus new. It's dead easy, as some of the digital giants in California proved, it's dead easy to get into bad habits. Yeah. And it's really hard to get out of them. Now, we have 152 years of history and we've got some bad habits. We need to break those. But you can be 2 years old or 7 years old or 14 years old and have even worse badly ingrained habits. So it's a lot to do, but it unlocks so much energy and potential. It's worth it all the time because it's so much easier to get stuff done if your ways of working work.
Completely agree.